Now she's teasing a big announcement that she claims will result in some of her opponents being arrested and charged.
A Dalton home that she leased to Mayor Tiffany Henyard has filed eviction papers. She says Henyard has not paid her rent, and now...
So let's dive right into it. Dolan Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the so-called super mayor of Illinois, has been caught in what seems like a never-ending spiral of scandals, corruption allegations, and shocking twists. And with recent move from the FBI, it looks like her days of high-flying and defiant public appearances might be coming to an end.
South suburban politician Tiffany Henyard appears to have lost control of both governments.
Here's the thing, Tiffany Henyard started her political journey as a groundbreaking figure, Dalton's first black female mayor. She came into office in 2021 and people were excited. She promised to turn things around for this small Illinois town, vowing to focus on economic development, community programs, and the kind of reforms Dalton desperately needed. But if you fast forward to today, it seems like her once bright image has completely dimmed. Instead of success stories, her administration has been rocked by allegations of misuse of funds, out of control spending, and a trail of lawsuits that would make anyone's head spin.
Let's point the finger to Tiffany or allow me. I'm over it. Now it's time for me.
One of the most jaw-dropping recent developments, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was hired by Dalton's village trustees to investigate the situation, pulled the curtain back on what she described as Henyard's dire financial mismanagement of village funds. And when Lightfoot went public with her findings, the audience was shocked. Just to give you an idea of the scale, Dalton's general fund was sitting at a balance of $561 million in 2022. Fast forward to May 2024, and that balance had sunk to a deficit of $365 million. Talk about a budget disaster. Now that alone would be troubling, but Lightfoot's report uncovered even more lavish spending on shopping, luxury hotels, dining, and trips across the country that left Dalton residents wondering if their taxpayer dollars were Henyard's personal piggy bank. It's a power grab. On the day Lightfoot revealed the report, you could feel the tension in the air. The room was filled with gasps as Lightfoot shared the receipts, thousands spent on Amazon, with a single purchase for $43,000 on one day alone. And that was just the beginning. There were multiple purchases on that same day, including a $4,700 transaction and another for $5,600, and over on Wayfair another nearly $8,000 for something she charged to the village. All these high-end expenses, Amazon, Target, luxury goods, painted a picture that, let's just say, didn't look much like responsible leadership.
It's a power grab. That's it. Power and money grab.
Dalton's village trustees were furious, with one trustee, Kay Belcher, calling it a slap in the face to every Dalton resident. And she's not alone in her frustration. Trust Cammie Brown warned that it was time for a clean house by early 2025. And it's not just the trustees who are fed up. Residents like Andrea McKay are heartbroken, especially since many Dalton citizens are struggling with basic expenses. And here was their mayor allegedly blowing through funds. As McKay put it, she was devastated that Henyard had come into town and spent all of our tax money. So how did Henyard respond? Did she apologize or try to explain her side? Not quite. In typical fashion, Henyard came back swinging, telling her critics to remember, "I'm the leader." At one public meeting, she seemed almost annoyed by the pushback she was getting, accusing Dalton trustees of just running their mouths and not doing any real work. She defended her spending as if it were all for the public good, saying her critics were simply grandstanding and should just get in line behind her. And it didn't stop there. She took things even further by playing the race card, saying her critics should be ashamed of themselves for attacking a black woman in power. Penrith seems to be taking the stance that this is all some sort of targeted attack rather than a reaction to real troubling behavior.
Showed up here to see her tenant in person after she says Henyard has been dodging both her and rent payments.
But the community isn't buying it. People have been seeing the so-called super mayor plastered across town on massive billboards with slogans like "Keeping my promises" and "Fighting for my residents" next to her bead face. These billboards aren't winning her any favors with the community either. People have compared the visuals to something out of a dictatorship, calling it reminiscent of leaders and certain authoritarian regimes. The reaction from locals is summed up perfectly by one resident who said it's like a dictator, there is no call for it, it's an image that's hard to shake, especially with the village in such deep debt. Henyard has even used local police officers as her personal security, an expense that isn't sitting well with residents. Reports indicate that she has a full detail assigned to her, and these officers rack up overtime just to provide her personal protection at her various events and functions. Some officers have reportedly been made to work more than 100 hours in a pay period, escorting Henyard to everything from meetings to social gatherings. Dalton trustee Brittany Norwood hit the nail on the head when she said it's less about protecting the mayor and more about assigning officers to her personal use, leaving the community feeling less safe and further adding to the financial strain on the village's budget.
Seeking arrest for individuals involved. I will be pressing charge.
Henyard's spending goes beyond personal security details and travel expenses. Recently uncovered records reveal additional controversial expenditures such as high-priced billboard campaigns and an alleged $85,000 Valentine's Day event, which featured celebrity performances, costly decor, and personal branding that prominently showcased Henyard herself. Critics have slammed the EV event as another misuse of taxpayer money, pointing out that the funds could have been directed toward improving community resources. Instead, the blowback from the community over these extravagant events has been fierce, with residents describing the spending as out of touch with Dalton's needs and priorities. Adding more to her list of controversies, Henyard has been known to organize events that highlight her role rather than community achievements. Multiple community gatherings seemingly centered around her image. One such event included her wearing an elaborate ensemble reminiscent of a movie gangster, even cueing music as she made her entrance, which left many attendees baffled. This spectacle-based approach to public service, where Henyard appears to prioritize her own public personal over meaningful policy, has been a major point of frustration for residents. Many see these actions as further proof of her disconnect from the struggles faced by the average Dalton citizen.
Because I'm at wit's end and I fear that I'm going to go into foreclosure soon if I can't get this.
Henyard's spending goes beyond personal security details and travel expenses. Recently uncovered records reveal additional controversial expenditures such as high-priced billboard campaigns and an alleged $85,000 Valentine's Day event, which featured celebrity performances, costly decor, and personal branding that prominently showcased Henyard herself. Critics have slammed the EV event as another misuse of taxpayer money, pointing out that the funds could have been directed toward improving community resources. Instead, the blowback from the community over these extravagant events has been fierce, with residents describing the spending as out of touch with Dalton's needs and priorities. Adding more to her list of controversies, Henyard has been known to organize events that highlight her role rather than community achievements. Multiple community gatherings seemingly centered around her image. One such event included her wearing an elaborate ensemble reminiscent of a movie gangster, even cueing music as she made her entrance, which left many attendees baffled. This spectacle-based approach to public service, where Henyard appears to prioritize her own public personal over meaningful policy, has been a major point of frustration for residents. Many see these actions as further proof of her disconnect from the struggles faced by the average Dalton citizen.
The Thornton Township Board meeting was canceled, this time because Supervisor Tiffany Henyard and a trustee couldn't agree on where to have.
Tiffany Henyard's approach to handling critics and political opponents has added even more complexity to her scandal-ridden administration. With allegations of financial mismanagement, dubious spending habits, and misuse of public funds already dogging her, her response has been to double down on a confrontational stance rather than openly addressing these accusations. Henyard has reportedly not shied away from using her position to intimidate critics, even openly suggesting that she might press charges against those who oppose her. In one striking instance during a Facebook Live broadcast, Henyard looked straight into the camera and declared that she would be seeking arrests for individuals she accused of being involved in what she described as a power and money grab. Yet, she failed to specify any actual crimes her opponents may have committed, nor did she elaborate on what justifies these arrests. This type of approach has led many to believe that Henyard is more interested in quashing dissent than dealing with the mounting allegations against her administration. Rather than taking accountability or responding with transparency, Henyard's public statements have started to appear as if she's using her authority not to govern but to silence those who might challenge her position. Moreover, Henyard has employed identity politics as another tool in her defense strategy, positioning herself as a target of racial and gender bias rather than as a public servant under scrutiny. She's been vocal about her belief that her detractors are targeting her not because of her actions, but because she is a Black woman holding a powerful position. Phrases like "it's me today, it's you tomorrow" have become part of her public statements, framing herself as a representative of marginalized communities who is being unfairly targeted by a political system unwilling to tolerate a Black woman in authority. While there is no doubt that bias against Black women in politics is a significant issue, critics argue that Henyard's use of identity politics is a deflection from the very real financial mismanagement allegations she faces. It's a tactic that resonates with some, but for others, it's a disappointing redirection from the transparency and accountability they believe are lacking in her leadership. By invoking identity politics, Henyard's critics argue she may be exploiting her position not to inspire change or to represent her community faithfully, but to create a smokescreen that shields her from the very serious accusations being levied against her administration. These actions have caused growing frustration among residents and political observers, with many openly questioning whether Henyard is using her position for personal gain rather than for the public good. The repeated attempts to deflect criticism, combined with her threats against opponents, paint a picture of a leader who appears more focused on retaining power than on serving the needs of her community. The accusations of misuse of funds are particularly damaging, as they suggest that taxpayer money intended for the benefit of Dalton's residents was spent on her own lavish lifestyle. Henyard's critics argue that her recent behavior reinforces their belief that she is unfit for her role, pointing to her adversarial approach and the mounting lawsuits as evidence that her administration has lost credibility. For those watching the situation closely, Henyard's tactics of deflection, intimidation, and identity politics are not the actions of a leader facing her constituents, but rather of a figure unwilling to let go of power. Whether or not Henyard will continue her fight to maintain her position, or if the ongoing investigations will bring her tenure to an end, remains to be seen. But for now, the controversy surrounding her leadership has cast a shadow over her once promising political career. Tiffany Henyard's tactic of framing herself as a target of unjust criticism, particularly due to her identity as a Black woman in power, has been met with skepticism and frustration by the Dalton community. Residents increasingly view her appeals to discrimination as a diversion from the serious issues facing the town, feeling that her focus should be on accountability and transparency rather than shifting the conversation to bias. Many perceive her actions as a calculated attempt to deflect from allegations of financial mismanagement and misconduct rather than a genuine effort to address prejudice. This frustration has grown significantly now that the FBI has taken an interest in Henyard's activities, leading locals to believe that the federal investigation may finally bring an end to her controversial tenure. With the stakes now higher than ever, her claims of discrimination have failed to garner the sympathy or support she might have once received from community members who are weary of the ongoing scandals. The public sentiment took a clear turn recently when Henyard arrived late to a town hall meeting, only to be met by boos from the crowd, a stark contrast to the support she had previously enjoyed. This reaction was a powerful statement from her constituents, suggesting they have finally reached a breaking point. Financial challenges have plagued Dalton, and many believe that Henyard's leadership has played a significant role in the town's current economic troubles. The growing discontent signals that her formerly loyal base is dwindling, leaving her scrambling to retain any remaining support amid the wave of disapproval. As residents watch the FBI's scrutiny unfold, there is a palpable hope within the town that justice may finally be served, putting an end to Henyard's divisive and controversial leadership. The scandal has cast a long shadow over Dalton, and with federal authorities involved, both local citizens and outside observers await what they hope will be a long overdue resolution. Tiffany Henyard's political career, once seemingly full of promise, is now on the brink of collapse, overshadowed by a slew of scandals, accusations, and lawsuits stacking up like a line of dominoes, all pointing to a looming downfall that was once unimaginable. Her tenure in office began with bold ambitions, but recent events, particularly an FBI investigation, signal a pivotal turn that could very well mark the final days of her power. Once projecting an air of confidence, Henyard had initially won strong support from her constituents. However, her recent approach has alienated the same base she once rallied, with many feeling her leadership has steered the town into financial disarray and widespread public discontent. The FBI probe, sparked by concerns over alleged financial mismanagement and abuse of public funds, comes after a series of questionable decisions and behaviors from Henyard that residents feel betrayed the very trust placed in her by the community. For years, whispers of misconduct and misappropriation trailed her administration, and now those allegations have snowballed into what appears to be an undeniable crisis. Despite the growing pressure, Henyard has remained publicly defiant, brushing aside accusations and maintaining her stance of innocence. Yet, her confidence in the face of these mounting charges has led many to wonder whether she genuinely believes she can weather the storm or if she's simply stalling in hopes of a last-minute reversal of fortunes. Many believe that her defiance is less about genuine belief in her innocence and more about a refusal to let go of power, an attribute that has turned former supporters against her. Her administration's financial policies have led to a downward economic spiral for the town, leaving local vendors unpaid and community programs underfunded, intensifying the public's frustration and adding weight to the legal accusations now leveled against her. To make matters worse, in recent town meetings, the once loyal crowd that cheered her on now greets her with boos and visible discontent, a stark reminder of how far her support has eroded. The division within the town is palpable, with longtime supporters feeling missiled and calls for new leadership growing louder. Dalton, a community that once looked to Henyard with hope, now feels the consequences of what many believe is her mismanagement, and as tensions mount, a sense of anticipation lingers about what the future holds for both the town and its embattled mayor. For the people of Dalton, the stakes couldn't be higher, as every day of continued financial distress directly impacts local businesses, public services, and the livelihoods of residents who rely on city resources to function properly. Each new piece of information that surfaces from the FBI's ongoing investigation chips away at Henyard's credibility, sparking conversations and speculation about her ultimate fate. Will this turbulent chapter in Dalton's leadership close with Henyard's exit, providing an opportunity for the town to rebuild with fresh leadership? Or will she somehow manage to hold on to her position against all odds, navigating the chaos around her to secure her place despite the public and legal outcry? These are the questions many are asking as her legal woes and financial missteps intertwine to create a saga of power, controversy, and potential downfall that has captured the community's attention like never before. For those following the story, the unfolding drama has brought not only a mix of anger and frustration, but also a glimmer of hope that Dalton might soon see a new chapter, one that offers a break from the scandals and financial strain that have plagued it under Henyard's leadership. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this ongoing saga.